Hello, everyone. Day 3, Ord Compound House. We are not sleeping. We're keeping going on. But today, luckily, I got someone who's in the space. This is not a joke. Every time Bob tweets any thread, anything, I bookmark it. I come back. I have to read it. I got to break it down. So today, I'm joined by Bob Bodily, one of the top educators out there in the ordinal Bitcoin ecospace, building bioniq market. Why don't you give a little intro to yourself? Tell us who you are, what you're working on.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here. I know you guys have been going nonstop. Sounds like the past 7 days. So really happy to be here. Happy you guys are still cranking it out. I'm Bob Bodily, CEO of bioniq. Been doing lots of deep dive technical content on Bitcoin for the last 18 months. Got in early on Ordinals. It was February 6th. And I was convinced Ordinals were February 6th, 2023. 2 weeks after Casey released the Ord protocol, and I was convinced it was going to be absolutely massive. Had all of the necessary ingredients to make a beautiful delicious ecosystem. So
yeah, well, it's funny when anyone says like a date. You say February, everyone knows you're talking about like how close to Ordinals the release was. If you're here. Like, how did you, when it first actually, the Ordinal white paper came out or handbook came out, like, how did you know right away, oh, yeah, this is the thing?
Yeah, it was a combination of factors. If you look at what Casey released, it was an Explorer. It was a wallet. It was a Launchpad, like a minting service. So everyone could get in and be like, yeah, I want to mint. Yeah, I want to, create Explorers. It was all open source. Yeah. So part of it is just infrastructure readiness. It was like ready to go. The next part was like, lots of people getting in, lots of big money coming in on Ordinal Punks and other. Wait, what was the OG? Was it Ordinal Punks?
Bitcoin Punks.
Bitcoin. No.
No, you're right. It was Ordinal Punks.
Ordinal
was
Punks.
Original. Exactly. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The OG. Yeah.
Sorry.
So big money. Yeah. Going in.
Okay, so you were already primed, like, to be able to see this thing as something like, oh, this is definitely like a revolution. Which, if you're in Nashville right now, there's a revolution happening. It really does feel like it. Like, what were you doing before that, like, primed you to know, oh my God, we're like, something's happening now? Like, what were you doing before this?
Yeah, had done quite a bit of Ethereum NFT trading. Also have been a full-time builder in crypto since 2021, building wallets, NFT marketplaces, NFT collateralized lending protocols, smart contract wallets, all kinds of smart contract tech. So very familiar with the NFT space just broadly in crypto, and was starting to dabble in kind of the cross-chain space when things just kind of took off on the Bitcoin side.
Nice. So you were already in this. I think a lot of us came from like, you can say Ethereum NFTs, the test net. It was a test net. It was great. We learned a lot over there. When you first like read like what Casey was putting out and the tools, what were the things you were like, yes, it fixed that? Or was it just like he just put out like a good vision of, I don't even know, like the value you already had? Were there any key fixes you thought versus what you were already working in?
Yeah, so 100% on chain for Ordinals is fantastic. You have digital artifacts. You don't have to trust some kind of, off-chain data availability, essentially. That's kind of like roll-up lingo, but bringing NFTs 100% on-chain essentially gives you the full, security decentralization of Bitcoin for your digital assets, which, gives you this digital artifact quality of an NFT. It's kind of the highest quality that you can get for an NFT. And so that plus, the Bitcoin ecosystem is massive. There's a lot to love.
Yeah, I was going to say, remember, you can always hear a real person who's in this system because you're saying digital artifact, okay? We don't say NFT over here. We want to say digital artifact, which is different, right? There are rules that actually have to be, in place to be considered a digital artifact, which Ordinals forces you. So you started educating people, like, it seems like pretty much right away. You were one of the people who was like, breaking things down, trying to either move people who were just holding Bitcoin over to Ordinals or people in like Solana or Ethereum over. What were like the first challenges you found when you were like educating people that like this was different? What were they saying to you of like that was what they weren't getting, I guess?
Yeah, obviously there's the maxi crowd. Yeah. And so that's
you were trying to get the maxis?
No one. Maybe like there are some that, the more open-minded that actually came over and started to appreciate Ordinals.
Open-minded and maxi don't go together, though. Okay, I'm joking. Sometimes.
It's a spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a categorical, you have to be one or the other. And so I think there are some people kind of on the line.
Yeah.
But then, you could argue maybe they're not. Maybe they're not all the way over. Let's see. In the early days, it was like the Ord repo. Like the code itself was the alpha.
Yeah.
and you just had to, keep up on the PRs, on the commits. And that was, hey, cool new thing happening. Here's the code. Here's, here's what's going on.
So I'm always curious, like, because, I like to troll GitHub. I like to look at what people are saying here, but some people are a little intimidated, right, when you go over there. Where are you, like, drawing the line of saying someone like, hey, if you want alpha, you got to learn how to read GitHub PRs? Or can you always have like a layer of like, you can go through Bob, wait for the Bob thread? Like, were you telling like, I guess normies who weren't coding, hey guys, check it out, recursion's coming. Look here's the PR. Or do you send people over to GitHub? I don't know. Where do you think? How deep should you go if you're
in the very, very early days, you just had to go to GitHub. Yeah. But again, in the very early days, it's kind of a bit more scrappy, and you kind of have to dig deeper. So like to degen on something in the early days of Ordinals, it was like, I'm creating custom Bitcoin transactions that have never been done before in the history of the world. And I have this script that does this crazy thing, or I have this new protocol, and, there may be a front end to do it and there may not be. And you might need to hack your Ord instance to go do something. And so it's very much like in the early days, it's like a super technical, you just gotta, have the chops to go in and get the alpha. Obviously that matures over time.
Totally. Yeah. So how has it changed? Like you educating people, like where do you find yourself focusing now versus so early on? It's like you're on the ground floor. You're trying to tell people there's a revolution happening. They're writing code over here. Get in. Right. As time goes on, obviously I've talked to so many marketplaces, wallets, people building tools, trying to get together. Like, what's the evolution been like of you onboarding like newbies into this world?
Right. I mean, initially, maybe the first, 3, 4, 5 months, it was all Ordinals. You didn't have anything else. Totally. I mean, eventually we got Sats names, we got BRC20, we started having tokens. Now it's mostly new meta protocols coming out, people trying to do new things in new ways, making different trade-offs, or it's roll-ups, or it's zero knowledge, or it's a different landscape now from a technical perspective, just tons of people doing tons of crazy things all over the place. Yeah.
Okay. So here, this is an actual question where a lot of people out there, they're like, I'm working on a meta protocol. Okay. DMT 2.0. I've got something called LSD that's coming out. I'm in the chats. I hear what they're saying. They're saying one thing. They're saying, how do I get a Bob Bodily thread about my new protocol? Because that's how it's going to pop off. Like with so much stuff coming out, how do you know that, okay, I'm going to give my attention to this. Okay, DMT came out, and it's time for me to like break this down for people. Right. And other stuff that's like, I don't know if that's going to catch on. I'm going to wait for it to mature.
Yeah, it's less like what's going to catch on and more what is just really interesting and impactful, I think. I don't take money for any of the things that I do. I think it keeps me
I keep trying to give him money. He will not post any of my threads.
It keeps me an unbiased opinion on technology. And so haven't taken anything from anyone for any of my threads. And it's usually part traction and it's part the interestingness of the meta protocol. What unique problems are you solving? How are you doing your go-to-market? How are you trying to get traction? And sometimes things align and it's like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. Also, probably the ease with which I can get access to protocol information. Some of the docs are hypey and fluffy, and they don't mean anything. Totally. I go in and I try to understand, and it's like, well, this is like impossible for me to try.
It's going to revolutionize the way Bitcoin works, and you're like, how? Right. It's a revolution, and I'm like, how?
Right. So I like the nitty gritty technical stuff, but it can be very inaccessible sometimes. So it's kind of a mixture of all of that kind of put together.
Yeah, how do you like approach when you read something that's like kind of nitty gritty technical? Like, what's your process for breaking that down? Are you just like reading it and then just writing down your questions and going out to like Discords and asking people? Are you like, looking at the code? How do you like learn exactly like the details?
Yeah, my favorite hack is I'll go to Claude 3.5 Sonnet and I drop in a PDF and I talk. I just ask questions like, okay, give me the high level, what is this doing? What is it trying to do? Yeah. How does it compare to other things? And that gives me like a general but imperfect understanding of the high level. And then when you dig in, it's like, oh, I remember, we chatted about this thing. Claude was wrong. Like this, the protocol does it differently, but it like sets your frame of mind, like gives you the background knowledge you need. And then you can go in and dive deep.
Totally. I was going to say that out here, that's what I'm doing. I'm treating humans like Claude. I'm just like, okay, cool. You're the BRC20 guy. I got 400 questions about 2.0. Let's go back and forth. And then they're like, leave me alone. It's been 10, 20 minutes of like.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so we've seen a couple things here. Obviously, there's I'm out here. We're talking. There's fights happening at the conference, right? There's BRC20 gangs. There's there's Rune gangs, right? They're fighting with each other, and
down
I'm
on
here.
Broadway.
Oh yeah. They're out on Broadway. They're getting drunk, and it's just wait till 2.0. Casey made Runes and Ordinal. Like, how do you find yourself interacting with those different groups? Like, for instance, was it easier to teach people BRC20 or easier to like kind of educate people on Runes?
Runes had a lot more hype. I mean, BRC20, I was talking to Domo yesterday, kind of reminiscing about the event, but it was, he said, these will be worthless, all caps at the top of the BRC20 docs. And now it's a, I don't know, multi-billion-dollar total market cap protocol. So, we've never been more happy for Domo to be very, very wrong. But it was just,
I'm sure he's happy too.
It was a quiet night. He posted a thing. It was really cool. And then kind of took off. Runes was very much, it was hyped from the first blog post.
Totally. 100%.
Casey's blog post, and we had actual implementations the next 24 hours.
Totally.
And then, so it was a completely different type of release, and people knew way more about Runes than they knew about BRC20.
Totally. Well, it's like BRC20 laid that like groundwork where everyone's like, oh, there's something new coming. I can learn ahead of time.
Yeah.
So it's funny. We got BRC20. You got Runes. Both of them, they're fighting and competing, but there's updates then trying to happen to BRC, 20 right now. And I'm hoping to talk to Domo about this here. How do you look at those two markets yourself? And if someone new comes in, like it's always kind of hard when someone comes into a space and you're like, okay, well, you guys got shitcoins over here. Like there's two versions. Yeah. And like, how do you break that down for like the normie here who's like, I'm a Bitcoin maxi or I'm an Ethereum person. What do you got? Which I don't get the difference,
Right. Best case scenario is we just abstract the difference and there is no difference. Technically that's hard to do right now, but I think there are some ways in the future. They're different marketplaces. You buy them on different places. They're like two separate token standards. This is, we're seeing a lot of user fragmentation and liquidity fragmentation in the Bitcoin ecosystem already. We're 18 months into Bitcoin season 2, and we're already seeing lots of this kind of, liquidity fragmentation across the ecosystem.
Yeah, I love it took this long to get to season 2 in Bitcoin. It took a little bit of time. Like even like Bitcoin Nashville, like the hype, the vibes, it's unreal. I've been going to NFT conferences for many, many years now, 3+ years here. And this is the most time I've seen all my ETH friends. They're not on ETH anymore. All my Solana friends, they're still on Solana a little bit, but they're over here. How have you seen these other kind of communities like adapted? Is it like easier to get an ETH person to come over to Bitcoin or for Solana people? Or do you tell them like, don't worry about Ordinals, come over here, I got Runes for you?
Yeah, it's actually funny. A lot of people were Bitcoiners at heart. That's what brought them into the crypto space. And then it was just impossible to do anything on Bitcoin. Impossible. Casey proved everyone wrong. It wasn't actually impossible, but it was really hard for builders. And so naturally you go to where you can do something. And so, people started with Bitcoin and were like, oh, I can't really do anything here. Let's go to Ethereum. Let's go to Solana. Let's go to ETH-L2s. But then with all of the interest and excitement around Bitcoin now, people are coming back to Bitcoin. So it's not necessarily, ETH maxi coming to Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoiner who's always loved Bitcoin finally being able to do what they've always wanted to do on Bitcoin.
Totally. It's so funny because like you ask like a normie, like crypto, they think Bitcoin and crypto are one thing, right? They think all crypto is Bitcoin, et cetera. And I think a lot of us too, like that's how you get into it. Like you're saying, there's nothing to do. So you hold your money in a safe. What am I gonna talk about week over week with all my friends? So that actually is pretty interesting. As you're talking out here to all the different builders, because it's not just like, I think the ordinal like explosion which led to BRC20s and Runes and everything else, like it brought all these other people who were already building L2s on Bitcoin, all this other attention that was happening. Now we're talking ZK rollups. I was having ZK rollup debates over on Ethereum. Now they move over to Bitcoin. Like, what is the interesting kind of stuff you're seeing now explode post this whole ordinal BRC Rune wave?
Yeah, this Bitcoin season 2 definitely kicked off with this, meta protocol hype. We had Ordinals, BRC20, and then like a host of, I guess, Sats names, an OG in the meta protocol space. Counterparty is the OG meta protocol. was just like what a decade before its time.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's wild because I actually had some friends too who were counterparty maxis, and then the Ethereum 2021 bubble popped off, and they were like, "What? No, I'm over here. I got rare Pepe's over here," and it was like, "Oh, you're sorry, man."
I still think we might have a counterparty resurgence. Something about historical provenance on Bitcoin assets, like counterparty hasn't had its moment yet. Yeah, but once you get better user experience, once you get some better ways with like token standard interoperability. I mean, you have BRC20 and Runes, but also counterparty assets are completely different than those two, and so you have yet another place to suck liquidity, but I think we might see some counterparty resurgence eventually once you get better user experience and things like that.
Totally. So you're someone who's actually super early on stuff always. You're checking out the new stuff. You're getting into the technical docs. A lot of times the UX is not going to be built out, right? So you're used to a little bit more friction. How do you as like a educator tell a normie, hey, it's time to come over here? Or other times you're like, dude, it's a little too rough. Like, are you like waiting for some like, I don't know, advancements to happen before you tell other people? Or do you just like say like, dude, if you want to get in the trenches, get in the trenches?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing from my side is I'm just trying to educate people on the tech. And so it's not really a, do I ape or do I not ape? I mean, other people can make that choice. For me, it's just like, how does this tech compare to other pieces of technology? What are the affordances? What are the trust assumptions? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? And that's kind of my, my attempt at objectivity in evaluating technology. Yeah. And then if someone's like, hey, I want to ape into something crazy, I can be like, well, there are lots of places to do it. And, they can like, assess based on the technology. But I'm not going to tell people like, hey, you got to go ape into this thing right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like we got Ordinals, BRC20 Runes, like what are the things you think that are missing that you could actually help get a lot of people in a lot faster? What do you find like the hiccups every time you're educating someone where it's like, okay, this is going to be rough, don't worry, but you're going to get through it? Like, where are those areas? Because there's builders out here that we can, we'll fix it today.
Right. Part of this is UX, user experience, not just in Bitcoin, but in crypto generally. When you think about the really popular apps that have gone a little bit more mainstream, they all have something in common, and it's just flawless, seamless user experience. If you can one-click login, no browser extension, no seed phrase, that's like smart contract wallet behind the scenes, log in with a pass key like with Google or with your fingerprint, and then you automatically have a wallet. If you can get started without having to pay gas, if you can do some abstraction on the gas fee layer, and then if users can just come in and do fun things that don't even require tokens, come in, get an asset for free, come start playing our game, and then you kind of onboard that way. If in that way, you're not catering to an ecosystem, you're building a product with product market fit with users in the real world. And so as we can abstract all of the technical parts of crypto into the background, I think we start to see more adoption, because who really cares about the tech? Like, who cares if you build a website
I care.
Like AWS versus Google Cloud versus a Linux stack versus a different stack. Like, who cares about the tech in the broader scheme? And let's just build awesome applications that are really easy to use for tons of users that want to come and do something fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's no one who like opens up a website and immediately opens up developer tools and it's like, oh my God, they're serving from S3 Amazon. I'm a Microsoft boy. I'm out of here.
There actually might be people like that.
I don't think there. I gotta be honest. I hang out with hardcore nerds. I actually am like an AWS nerd. That's my preferred cloud. Sorry, Jeff, you're getting all my money. But like, I really don't think I've met anyone who is like, they don't care about what cloud you're on as long as you're doing the product, So like,
I mean, tech stack maybe though, like, oh, you built this website using this kind of framework and this is an inferior framework and your website is not as good because you're not using the right tech stack.
Well, it's funny. There's a rumor in the not a rumor, in the programming world, we often joke around. It's like the coolest tech stacks make the least money. It's this funny thing where like dude, I'm building it in HTMX and Rust, that's a cool tech stack. And then it's like, cool, dude, have you made any money? No. I'm in PHP and I'm doing $1 million a month, and everyone's like, damn, dude, I wish it was a PHP,
Yeah, I mean, WordPress dominance for websites is a real thing. So
100%, yeah. Okay, so there's also right now, there's been like kind of like a wallet war, a platform war going on. There's just so many. I think back in like the Ethereum big boom, it was like MetaMask. The majority, like 90% of my friends were just using MetaMask, and some people would talk about, okay, here's a competitor, here's that. That's expanded a little bit in the ETH world, but over it seems in Bitcoin land, like it is just, most of my friends are running an Xverse, a Unisat, a Phantom, a Magic Eden, etc. How do you like tell people to like how do you pick one? It's so much more complicated than it felt like over back in the day. It was just do MetaMask, don't worry about it.
Right. I was chatting yesterday about tech, and there is this process of bundling and unbundling. Mm-hmm. And you can explain almost every like successful business as a bundling, we do all of these things all in one. You just come in, you pay, and you have it all. And then you have the complete opposite where it's unbundling, like, they might do all these things, but we specialize here and we're the greatest at it.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so I've started to view a lot of tech like this process of bundling and unbundling. You have a lot of market leaders, on Ethereum, all of the NFTs gravitated to OpenSea because they were the kings of liquidity. That was the bundling phase. And then you start to have other people trying to like chip away at their market share. And when they get the right product market fit, you start to have some unbundling occur because they're now finding a new use case that people love. And so in the wallet space, I view it the same way. You're going to have a lot of these wallets move cross-chain, which is what we're seeing. So you have lots of cross-chain wallets now. But eventually we're going to see some kind of consolidation, like a bundling where it's just, there's going to be a wallet that's really, really, really fantastic. And it's going to be awesome for a particular use case. And then people are going to start to gravitate, and you get the kind of bundling process, perhaps, where we consolidate into some. Yeah,
that's super interesting. Sorry, that's such an interesting point because, like, so there's like Magic Eden right now. Magic Eden, they are really the platform is
Kings.
Going after. It's funny. It's like back in the day, Magic Eden versus OpenSea.
I know.
Magic Eden was this. OpenSea was this.
I know.
And it's just like, whoops. And a bunch of that was they adopted Bitcoin Ordinals very early, right? They said, okay, cool.
Hackathons.
Ordinals,
flew people out. It was like, so they got a whole bunch of developers together, and it was like, I can't remember how long it was, but it was like 2 weeks or something. And it was just like hackathon, like crazy. And they just like cranked it out.
That is amazing. Yeah.
Which from like a strategic point of view, like brilliant.
Yeah.
To just bring everyone together, solve all the problems, just like crank.
Totally. But so now because of that, like, early on Runes, early on Ordinals, but also they got the Solana people, they got the ETH people.
Yeah.
Now on other sides, it seems like over here you got your Xverse, OKX people who are like, focused on Bitcoin, right? Like on one single thing. Like if someone new is coming in, how do you tell them, like, are you saying, okay, are you on all the chains? All right, maybe Magic Eden. No, cool, you're Bitcoin. Let's go. Don't worry. Let's just go straight to Xverse. Like, how do you tell someone to like pick one or the other or teach them an evaluation framework to like decide which one to use?
Yeah, I think the real answer is it depends. I had a conversation with someone at Inscribing Nashville, and I kind of start out to gauge their knowledge. Like, do you know anything about crypto? And they're like, I don't know. Like, do you know Bitcoin? And they're like, meh. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. Like then we have to kind of walk back until we can find like some common ground. So sometimes it's like, hey, go to Venmo and buy Bitcoin on Venmo.
Yeah.
Like that's the easiest step for them to start getting some experience on, I hold Bitcoin. It was really easy, just $5 on Venmo. And now I can start to feel what it's like to hold Bitcoin. I can check the balance. I can check the price. You start to just see it more in your life. And like you slowly start to be like, okay, like this is, I hold Bitcoin now. So that's like the easiest baby step.
Yeah.
In other cases with like really smart people, you just kind of like streamline it. Like, Magic Eden is, has all the liquidity. Go get an Xverse wallet. Log into Magic Eden, and make sure you save your Xverse seed phrase somewhere. Just go in, play around, find a ordinal you can buy for quadruple 01 or whatever, a couple dollars, and then just hold it and see how you feel and see how it looks in your wallet and see, like, it's all about baby steps.
Yeah. Well, I always thought this funny thing of like, you want to learn about something right when you actually own it. There's some money. All of a sudden your brain kicks in and you're like, okay, I want to hear a little more Bitcoin news. Like, why? I got $5 in it. It's like before you're like, I don't care. I don't care. It's like, I got $5, bro. This is important. Wait, there's news coming out. Trump's about to talk about Bitcoin.
Right.
What's he about to say? This could affect my bag, So
right.
Yeah. If someone if they want to actually learn about the space, I mean, obviously Twitter or X is like one of the hot spots right here. But then there's all these other, there's Discord, there's the Ordicore, there's, GitHub, there's all these places. Like, where do you direct people to join? Like, what's the community you direct them to like learn and join?
Yeah, that one's hard because again, everyone is so unique in like where they're coming from. And so honestly,
you're like, oh, you seem like a puppet. Going with the puppet. Okay, you're a bit of an OMB. Go with the OMB.
Yeah, it's like a one-on-one conversation is the best way.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I mean, I can talk about what I like, but I don't really tell people, hey, go buy this and get rich
No, I read every single Bob thread, never telling me what to buy. I'm like, the last one, it's going to say 7 of 7 and it's going to be, and then make sure you invest. I'm like, it's never happened.
Invest here, buy. Yeah. It's going to the moon.
I have to bookmark it. I got to break it down. I learn all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to buy. You didn't tell me what the ticker was, at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking to there's maxis here. They're running around here, right? Like, there's not just like maxis. There's people there's like all the maxis who are just put it on Bitcoin. Don't talk about L2s, dude. Just, it's money, it's gold. Don't store it. There's all the ordinal, BRC20, Rune MFers who are like protocols. Let's build new stuff, exciting stuff. Then there's this other like in between crowd, right? I kind of think like the L2 people, right? How's been your interaction with like those at this conference? Are you talking to a lot of people who are saying like, dude, you're paying that much, to buy your ordinal? I gotcha.
The L2 crowd is very smart. Some of the smartest technical people I know. I mean, I would probably separate them. There are some L2s that are just kind of like cash grabs, or they're just looking to pump a token.
Yeah.
So it's like a nice VC pump and dump kind of scheme. They're like, they don't have much documentation. Their technical GitHubs aren't great.
The website's a beautiful splash page that says an L2 scaling Bitcoin. You're like, how?
Yeah.
Scaling.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there are definitely some of those, but there are some very smart technical people. Some of, some brilliant zero knowledge minds.
Yeah.
Building rollups on Bitcoin, and I chat with all of them because they're all very smart and all working on crazy ways to try to verify validity proofs on Bitcoin and try to scale Bitcoin in a way that you can inherit the security and decentralization of Bitcoin L1.
Yeah. So do you find yourself like, another thing that I see a lot of people coming from other chains, other places, is all of a sudden you got 10-minute block times. And I'm like, what the heck? I was on Solana before. I was on, Photon, click and buy, click and sell. There was 5 seconds in between them. I lost all my money. How do you talk to people about like the time limitations of Bitcoin when you kind of recruit people over here?
Yeah, I mean, this is also kind of a user experience hurdle, I think. Having unpredictable block times, it's actually fairly predictable that as soon as you make a transaction and you're watching the mempool, you won't see a block for like an hour.
It's amazing. It's a watch block never confirms. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, wild.
I think there's something on the mempool.space site, and the more eyes that are on it, it starts to like 100%. Keep blocks from being from being mined.
Yeah, it's if you want to slow down time, you're just like, I need to slow things down. Inscribe something, pull up mempool space, and then you're just like, what is happening? How
has it been 45 minutes?
Yes,
yeah. So I mean, it's the result of the beautiful proof of work consensus on Bitcoin, but definitely annoying on the user side. And you kind of have to teach people, you make a transaction and you almost have to watch it in the mempool. Yeah. Otherwise you're like, you make the transaction, your balance disappears, you check your destination and it hasn't appeared. And you're like, where are my tokens? Yes. You think you did something wrong. You think you shipped it off into the abyss.
100%. My hands are sweaty. I'm calling all my technical friends. Like, I lost all my money. And you're like, wait, what do you mean? You're like, I don't know, man. I tried to spend 0.03. It took 0.3. And they're like, oh, dude, we got to stop and talk about UTXOs. We got to educate you. Right. Actually, that's a kind of interesting combo. How often has that happened to you where someone is like, didn't understand exactly how like the UTXO like model works?
All the time. It's an education process. Yeah. You have to learn like how UTXOs work, and you have to learn how the mempool works, and you have to learn how the fees that you set on your transactions work. Some people will do something and they'll be like, hey, it's been 6 days. And then I check their transaction. It's because they did like 3 sats per VB or something.
It's going to get through one day.
Yeah,
one day.
Because on other chains, you could potentially just do a low fee and just wait, like, I don't know.
I used to do that on Ethereum. I would say like a real, and then I would like, all of a sudden, like, at midnight it went through or some random time. Yeah.
On Bitcoin, depending on the fee structure, it might not go through for months. Yeah. And so that type of experience is not ideal for users.
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. There's I guess like 2 sides, because I actually do hear some people on the other side where they're like, oh, it's a little slower over here. It's kind of nice. I was dying. I was over on Solana and Photon. Yeah. I literally put in 1 Sol. 10 seconds later, it was 0 Sol. Here, I put in my not 1 Bitcoin.
Yep.
My 0.001 Bitcoin, and at least I had some time to chill before everyone can sell. Like, I don't know. There's, I guess, different advantages. Yep. Do you find yourself like getting more people who are like Solana native or ETH native or coming to Bitcoin? Like, which group kind of like adapts to it faster?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've talked to people from lots of chains. Yeah. Like every chain. These are the Bitcoiners that that went off and did other things that are now coming back to the mother chain or the grandfather chain or whatever.
We got to decide who is this chain and how are they related. Is it mother? Is it grandfather? Is it my daddy chain? I don't know.
I know. Maybe it's all of the above.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So another thing, like, I guess with this new space, because it is moving so very fast here. There's also updates happening to ordinals all the time, right? There's recursion, parent-child, et cetera, like, new updates to the actual ord client that are happening. We can now self-reference our own, endpoints and whatnot. How do you keep up with the ordinals coming out that are utilizing these things? Do you just have a list of, 1 million DMs or something like, I innovated, I've got double parent, triple recursion, revert,
Right. Yeah, usually you can tell because they talk about all the cool things they're doing. And so you have Pizza Pets. Pizza Pets are going to do lots of crazy stuff. Yeah. I was chatting with Ordinals Bot about it, and it's really fun. Yeah. But you also have some people that have kind of branded themselves as Ordinals innovators.
Totally. Like LIFOs or...
LIFO or Sanj or like others that they just have a knack for Ordinals experimentation.
Yeah.
And so those are the people to follow because they're going to be the ones that are like, hey, I need to get this PR in because I want to do this crazy thing. And here's the interesting way that I'm doing it. Billy, maybe we'll add Billy to the list as well. Billy's done a lot of really
100%.
Awesome
Every time there's some art release, I'm like, okay, there's the art visually, and how did he do it? What did he do? Oh, God, he's got different people remixing the art on chain.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
That's actually a fun question of like, who do you got noties on for? Who are the people that you're actually on Twitter, on X, you're like, these are the people, they say something, I need to read it right now. I don't know if you're a notification person.
I am. Well, so I've turned off notifications for everything all the time, everywhere. Yeah. So my phone, like no notifications.
Well, not on the main phone, but inside Twitter. No.
Yeah, but so inside Twitter, I do have a few. It's usually the more technical side of things. So like, what's a good example? Dan Held is a fun one.
Okay, nice.
Udi, even though he trolls everyone.
Yeah, that's the problem. Udi, I'm like, half time I'm like, oh, something really cool.
I know.
The other time I'm like, stop making fun of my other bags, bro. Leave me alone.
I know. Eric Wall has a lot of really good technical ZK content. Anyway, I have 5 or 10.
Okay, 5 or 10. Okay, you keep it kind of middle. You got Casey though, right?
I don't think Casey made the cut.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, I'm saying Casey also, you never know what he's posting about. You know what I mean? Half the time it's a troll.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. For that, like the technical stuff, how do you find yourself interacting with the actual developers? Are you ending up talking to them, whether that be on the Ordicord when they're working on something or, through GitHub issues, et cetera? How do you, this whole community of...
Yeah. For the most part, it's just a lot of side conversations. Yeah. So they'll be working on something super awesome. They'll be like, hey, I want some feedback. Here's what I'm doing. And I'll, read through it and then we'll have a nice conversation about it. That's pretty common.
Yeah. So if you're a developer actually out there, you're like, okay, cool. I'm being serious, Bob. You know how it is. You get a Bob thread. It's like we're in the game. You know what I mean? And a lot of developers, they're really good at making cool technical stuff, terrible at explaining it to anyone. You explain it's a revolution. How? It's okay. So do you understand? And then 5 hours later, I'm like, what does it do? Why do I care? How do you present information to you in an effective way to I don't know, make your job easier, make it so you're more interested right away? Is it demos? Is it like, do you just want like white papers? You want GitHubs?
Yeah, I mean, the more docs, the better. And
you actually read, and you're like the only one out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's, similar to what I said before, where you just kind of have to. It's the confluence of like traction plus people talking about it plus interestingness plus like solving new problems in new ways.
So where do you find yourself like spending most of your time actually interacting with people? Is it like a Discord? Is it an X? Is it a Telegram?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All of them. Really.
Yes.
You're split down. You're all right in the middle.
It's everywhere.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. I was gonna say it's one of the things out here. I will say every time you come to like a conference, there's always a different flavor. I'm always calculating how like who's asking where, and they're on the Telegram out there. It's Telegram. We're back. Because I mean, for a while there, it felt like Discord was like the home of Ordinals. Yeah. But out here in person, the conference, it feels like it's all Telegram. So.
Yep. Telegram, Twitter. Occasionally, I get a LinkedIn, and that's a weird one.
Oh,
but
no, I don't. LinkedIn, I can't even go. I don't have a LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I refuse to. As a developer, I refuse to get one.
Yeah.
Because I already get reached out by too many people, and I have recruiters reach out to me and say, "I found you on LinkedIn." I go, "No, you didn't. You liar."
Yeah.
So I can't even see who they are. So maybe let's just dive in. Bioniq. Want to tell us a little bit about it? Like, what are you building? How's it working? What's going on?
Yep. So we wanted to build an Ordinals marketplace that kind of fixed a lot of the user experience issues on Bitcoin L1. Yep. Slow block times. People can snipe your purchases. In fact, sniping is happening all the time now.
We had to talk a little about sniping.
In fact, mempool is the new marketplace.
Yes.
And so for all of those reasons, we wanted predictable block times. We wanted low fees. We wanted fast transactions. We wanted to enable people to do more with their Ordinals and with their BRC20 and runes. I know most people just sit in the wallet and look cool, and you get airdrops.
The airdrops are awesome. Great feature. Love it.
But like some people might want to stake their Ordinal and earn a runes token, or a staking game like Wolf Game, or let's actually do cool things with our assets.
Totally.
And that's what we're trying to enable at Bioniq. So to do that, you take your Ordinals and you bridge them over. So you have to move them over to a new chain, a new Bitcoin layer. You take your Bitcoin and do the same thing. And now you can move at the cost and speed of the Bitcoin layer, which is fast and low fee, rather than at Bitcoin L1. It does add some additional trust assumptions, of course, because now you're on a layer that's not Bitcoin. But you have a new way that you can interact with your assets.
Totally. So if you're so there's all the people who are like the consumers, but then there's also all of, I guess, the like builders, companies, markets. Like, did you find yourself, are you trying to like recruit people who are, okay, cool, you got an Ordinal collection. Hey, let's talk to you, Bioniq. Like, let's get you over here. Or are you more targeting, like, I guess, the consumers?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for marketplaces, and you'll see this for any Ordinals marketplace other than Magic Eden, is you have the famous chicken and the egg problem, the double-sided marketplace problem. Yes. Marketplaces are notoriously difficult because you need buyers to get sellers and you need sellers to get buyers. And so you have to bootstrap that somehow. Totally. So you have to have some kind of killer go-to-market or some kind of unique use case. Looking at the Ordinals marketplace setup right now, we don't have a good example of kind of maybe OKX, but that's because they have killer distribution. But even then, it's still, small. Yeah. Unisat, because they, highly specialized. And so, they got some good traction. But then otherwise, we have a lot of examples of really good founders building really good tech that have yet to kind of break out. And so it's not easy. And I would say Bioniq, we still haven't reached that point where we've kind of broken out. I mean, we have a lot of really great tech, and the user experience is good, and we're making inroads in a few places, but it's still very much kind of work to be done.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I remember in the ETH NFT days and the heyday in OpenSea. It was literally go to OpenSea, check 1 hour volume. And that's how you're deciding what to buy. And you're just on 1 hour volume, and you're telling your friend in the Discord, hey, this one looks pretty good. Okay, I saw the traits. No one's buying this rare trait. It's like, we're not there, because I do check. I check it for Magic Eden at least. Like how do you look at, like, I don't know, recruiting new projects to make sure, like, okay, we're trying to launch on Bioniq, so that way we're getting someone, or is it more you want that like secondary volume?
Right. Yeah, I think that from our perspective, onboarding new creators and creating high quality projects is the best way to kind of grow a marketplace. Right now, we can do things like at the conference this week, we've done a few free claims, and it's free, like free, like no network fees, no.
Which means it's not free for him. It's not free for Bob. That's the pay. When things are actually free, someone is paying. But yeah.
But the nice thing is because we're on this other Bitcoin layer, it's actually it's like cents or
totally,
cheaper.
Totally.
We have this thing called reserved ordinals. This is a new kind of dynamic. I think it's going to kind of become more popular, but you mint a token on a different Bitcoin layer. So it's not native to Bitcoin, and that token grants you the right to inscribe it whenever you want.
Totally.
So it's like a IOU ordinal in a way. And the benefit is creators can come in and launch these, and it's very, very low cost.
Yeah, totally.
And then you can even start to trade these kind of IOUs, and then whenever the users want to, they can then go and inscribe it to Bitcoin, and it's a fully fledged ordinal. Gotcha. And no one else can like steal the asset and go and inscribe it because you have kind of provenance.
Yeah.
But yeah, reserved ordinals are kind of a cool innovation, and we have lots of interesting ideas there.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I think we're almost starting to see this idea in ETH NFTs, and then it's like ordinals came out and everyone just like stopped talking about it. Where it's you start with IPFS. And maybe you get to on-chain, you know what I mean? Or maybe you start with an Amazon link, then you get to IPFS, then you get to on-chain. Like things don't have to start at the most permanent ever. You know, how does that feel when you're like interacting with, I guess, people who are more on like maybe the ordinal maxi side of like, or is there resistance of like, whoa, why not IOU? I want it right now, or what's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, from a user experience perspective, it's really fantastic. We use Web3 Auth as our authentication for bioniq, which is a little bit jarring if you're coming from Xverse, Unisat. So we have additional wallet authentication methods coming. But the beauty of Web3 Auth is you can just log in with Google. You're not trusting Google. It's a multi-factor authentication. So you have a private key share. Google would then, your authentication with Google would have a private key share, and then there would be a third private key share that would be sent to you. So it's like a multi-party kind of setup. But with the free claim, we had people that came in, you hit, you scan the QR code, you log in, you say log in with Google, then you hit claim and you're done. It's like 3 clicks, boom, 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 and you're done. Like we really want the easiest user onboarding possible. And so we're starting to get there.
Okay, totally. Yeah, so if you're a like builder out there, like you're launching an ordinals project, is that someone who should be reaching out to bioniq and being like, okay, hey, I'm trying to launch something. I mean, I don't know if this collection is going to be successful right away. I don't necessarily have the money. I want to do a 10,000 collection, and I don't want to spend a fortune. Like, are those the people like that should be reaching out and being like, hey, we need to work with you, or is it just like anyone can do it right now? Yeah.
So. We are working on a unique community fueled launchpad idea. So with launchpads, you have kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. One is open, free for everyone.
Yes.
And that's fantastic because everyone can come in and launch things. The downside is from the buyer side, you have a plethora of supply.
Well, I'm like, how many launches every day? How many of these are scams? How many are good?
And so it's almost impossible for a buyer to go in and make good decisions on how do I navigate this launchpad? Totally. On the other hand, you have like the very permissioned launchpads where nobody can get in unless you're like magically cherry picked because you have the right kind of traction.
In the cabal. You went to some shadowy meeting.
And so we want to do something in the middle where as users interact on bioniq, they earn reputation. And that reputation is based on, their loyalty to the platform, essentially. Reputation is like you can't trade your reputation. It's like connected to your identity. And then when a new project wants to launch, they come in and say, hey, I'm going to launch this project. It's going to be awesome. And then people vote on whether they want that project to launch or not.
Okay, gotcha.
And so it's based on the bioniq community. Nice. And the more money you're trying to raise with your launch, the more support you need from the community.
Gotcha,
So if you go in and say, I want to make $10 million and here's why my project's awesome, you're going to need like full community support as opposed to someone that's like, hey, I want to make $100. Here's my cool kind of thing. So
totally.
I think that kind of balances these 2 ends of the spectrum, and it lets anyone come in and propose hey, I want to launch this thing, and is there community support for it? Totally. And if you get it, then great. We'll launch it all and make it all happen.
Okay, so if I'm just like a consumer, I'm just buying ordinals and buying runes, whatnot. How do I build my reputation? What are like the right moves? What are the ways my reputation goes down then on bioniq?
Yeah, I mean, so we will have a creator reputation score, but that doesn't matter as much as just getting users that with high reputation to come in and vote on your launch. So,
but how do I build? Like, what is the actual tracking?
For users, it's going to be like a combination of what do you hold in your wallet and what kind of volume have you done on Launchpad and Marketplace. So it's kind of like a interesting trifecta score. It's just based on platform activity. The more you do, and the more recent you've done it, the more reputation you'll have to then vote because you're the most active on the platform. So you should get a bigger say in who comes on the. I
came there and I got one free claim, one time, and I'm like, guys, I'll tell you who we should be, minting or not. I was like, bro, you're not of here, so
right. So it's the most active. The people that trade the most will have the most.
Nice.
Say.
Yeah. Well, actually, I did not even know about this layer. Is there any other things about bioniq that I should know about? If I'm like someone coming from the outside that.
Yeah, one of the other things we're working on is I'll call it like a game engine. Okay. So imagine people have ordinals, people have runes, people have BRC20, and you want to do more with your ordinals. Yeah. Any combination of that, we have kind of this. We call it a levels protocol. Like imagine all of the different game mechanics. There's like. You can airdrop something, you could earn something, you could do an action, you could stake, you could steal, you could trade, you could swap. So these are all like different mechanics, kind of the underlying components that make up like a fun staking game, for example.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So this kind of game engine will let anyone come in and say, hey, I have this kind of JSON. JSON kind of like your BRC20s, protocol, et cetera, but you're specifying game actions, game interactivity. And so you can come in with this JSON and it'll just get sucked into the bioniq platform and you'll have an interesting way to stake and earn a runes token, or you'll have an interesting way to upgrade your ordinal over time or something like that.
So if I'm a builder out there, I've got a project. I'm like, okay, I've got the art. I know what I'm inscribing it on. I got some sats collected, but all these other features, I don't want to build them necessarily.
Right.
And then I'd come over to bioniq, and it's like, cool, I got my staking, I got my features, I got my et cetera. You mentioned a couple times here, on the east side, were you playing any of these like play-to-earn games, any of these staking games? Were you in?
Yeah.
So, I'm curious what you learned over there. I mean, you mentioned Wolf Game. I was a Wolf Game OG, still have all my Wolf Game up.
Nice. One of the early ones was EtherOrcs.
Yes, yeah.
EtherOrcs was like one of the first like on-chain NFTs on Ethereum, fully on-chain. And they created a Polygon bridge. Mm-hmm. So you would bridge Ethereum to Polygon, which makes sense because you want to do game stuff. Totally. And you want it to be, fractions of a cent.
I was paying at one point in Wolf Game, the fees I was paying, I was like, I'm just claiming some wool. Just cool. $15 here. Oh, gas is high. $50 over here. But I'm getting a free sheep. It's worth, $2,000.
Yep.
Things changed.
So, EtherOrcs was a really fun one.
Yeah.
And just seeing the model. I mean, a lot of those can turn into kind of, Ponzi. The earlier in you are, the better. But I think there are ways to do it in a more productive, slow growth over time, even way that isn't just like whoever dumps the most at the very beginning is gonna destroy everyone else.
The PDE model was get in early. Right when it's hyped,
and
get out.
And go hard.
Yeah, go hard. And then when the normies are on.
And then get out.
If I see normies on Twitter posting, if I see a Twitter space, I'm like, there's a Twitter space. Time to sell all this stuff here. Nice. Since you're so technical, do you look at other like chains in space? You look at Solana, Ethereum, what they're building, and like try and like, I don't know, bring over those lessons to Bitcoin, or are you just filled up with like Bitcoin stuff these days?
Definitely keeping up on cross-chain stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Been thinking a lot about Ordinals Launchpad a la Pump.fun.
Yes.
Essentially, bonding curve. Bonding curve lets you kind of buy and sell throughout the launch. It's kind of like liquidity bootstrapping for Ordinals. Something like that could be interesting, but
or destroy Ordinals, or destroy runes, or destroy BRC20.
Destroy it all. Yeah. But a lot of people are doing this kind of bonding curve based buy sell to bootstrap liquidity initially, and then you essentially transfer liquidity somewhere else and burn the tokens you get back to claim that liquidity, so you have a little bit more stability kind of launching new tokens. So
totally.
Yeah.
I will say it's an easy sell to any DJ. The pump.fun of ordinals, pump.fun of runes, everyone's like, don't even tell me more. What's the URL and what do I buy? Yeah. What are the? Well, that's another one. Like you've got because runes has just been such a different landscape of what are the memes and tickers that people care about. Every place is a different flavor. I have to read every old Casey blog post to try and find out what to buy here. Like how have you find yourself like finding what the memes are in that world? Do you look at that world too? Because it seems like you're above board. You're real technical. I don't know. Interesting. Are you like? I don't know. What are your feelings about Wanko Manko? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think so. You can either be a really good builder or a really good content creator or a really good DGen.
Okay.
And you have to pick one.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you start to pull away from the others. If you want to be a good builder and do good content, then it's going to be hard, but you can do it. But there's no time to DGen. And so, I'll dabble occasionally just to, try things out, when I want to lose some money and feel something.
Yeah, a little Friday night, have a couple drinks. Maybe I'm going to spend a little money, lose a little money,
But otherwise, I do like to buy, but generally I'm just holding for a long time because it's just easy.
Totally.
And focus more on builder content.
Totally. I will say, I look at pump.fun for more than an hour, and then I try and go develop. My brain's fried. Yeah. I literally feel like it's like burned a hole in my brain, and I'm like, I can go from pump.fun to TikTok. Yeah. I can't go from pump.fun to GitHub. It's a little bit of a struggle. So yeah, super sync, dude. Bob, no joke. Thank you so much for all the education you've given. I'm not joking. I got noties on. Every time you post a thread, bookmarked, I have to read it 3 times. And then I go to all my ordinal friends. I'm like, what does this mean? What's going on here? So you've done so much for the space, like, educating anyone. Before we wrap up, anything else that people should be looking forward to, bioniq or just anything? What are you doing next?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about interoperability. I mean, we have a lot of user and liquidity fragmentation on Bitcoin with just the growth of all of these different protocols. And so thinking about how we can solve some of these kind of interoperability problems.
Totally.
So, building a lot in that direction right now, and we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. Beautiful, dude. Bob, thank you so much again. Everyone, Bob Bodily, follow him on X, on Twitter. Like, no joke. You want to actually learn about the space, not read threads of, if you buy this rune, you're going to get rich. If you buy this ticker, you're going to go up. Actually learn how things work. Like, one of the most valuable follows here. bioniq, definitely check it out. If you're a builder, go over and definitely check it out too. You got both sides on there. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I'm excited.
So much.
I'm excited to see what's next year.